welcome to The Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast. Hello, and welcome to The Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer's Body Adams, and I have some bad news for you, viewers. Listeners, you're safe. But viewers, we've been doing a couple of video edits, or video episodes. I've been editing, staring at my face a lot, and it's been really fun. But I neglected to tell you the downside. Every time you see one of us on a video, there is always one sure consequence. A man will die. So, sorry. 3 men in your life are going to perish if you are watching this video, because we are nothing if not women in black here. And that's because we are watching The Woman in Black today. We are continuing Gothic Horror Month. And I'm so excited because I love this movie. But I'm not alone. I'm joined by a fabulous panel of lady killer experts. Rachel, say hello and tell us, are you a fan of Hammer horror?
Hi, Rachel Reeves, apparating from the beyond the veil here today. And am I a fan of Hammer horror? Yes. I love Hammer horror. They're so fun, so kind of campy in a way now looking back. And I mean, come on, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, like they're all just iconic. Vincent Price here and there popping up. And I think they're so fun. And for me, that was a lot like my introduction to a lot of those characters. The Dracula, the Frankenstein. Like I didn't even see the Universal Monsters ones first, like the actual movies. Like the imagery, of course, I've seen. But it was the Hammer versions of it, which was really funny to then watch the Universal ones and be like, oh, these are quite different. quite different budgets and styles and all of that kind of stuff. But I have so much fun with them. I find them to be really cozy and comforting for me, because I just love British television, British movies in general. They just have a certain vibe about them, which I know we're going to talk about because this is very much in that ilk with all of those other ones. So yes, Hammer horror forever.
Well, Shelby, say hello and tell us, are you a fan of Hammer horror?
Hello, I'm Shelby Novak, and I'm here to terrorize the children of your quaint English village. I am a fan of Hammer horror. Christopher Lee, like, I had a big crush on Christopher Lee as a child because he was so, but I was like, he was just so scary in those movies, but he was so tall and so imposing. And I swear he was like my first like goth crush, weirdly. That's weird to say. But yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, I mean, they're just so fun. I had actually a little bit forgotten this was a Hammer film, like until, because it's been so long since I had seen it. And when that popped up, I was like, oh my God. Like it was like, it was like a celebrity cameo in and of itself. That, you know, it was like, okay. So I definitely big fan of Hammer horror. I think they're so much fun. I know there's some stuff that hasn't aged well in some of them. But
that's like movies of any time that's not now.
Movies of any type. So I love Hammer horror though. It's always a good time. It's just like Rachel said, the budgets. It's the ingenuity of what they could do. You know, the ingenuity. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to say no to fancy British people. That's like one of my favorite subgenres. I am not super familiar with Hammer horror, though. And I think I, for a long time, kind of conflated Hammer horror and Universal Monsters horror. Because it was just, I don't know. I tend to not dip too far back in time unless I have a reason to. I like modern immediate stuff to my detriment. And every time I do dip back, I'm like, oh, this is great. And I think this was actually intended to kind of revive the Hammer horror brand.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah.
The only one that I think I've seriously watched, unless there are things that I'm forgetting, is Countess Dracula. We covered that on Murder Made Fiction a while ago because we were covering Elizabeth Bathory, and that movie is about Elizabeth Bathory, and it was great. And I was like, maybe I should watch more Hammer horror, but, you know. And I probably have watched it and just didn't really realize what I was watching, you know?
Possible, yeah.
Because I've watched quite a few Christopher Lee things, and I like that.
You've seen one then?
Then you have, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There was one on a train too with like Telly Savalas, I think. Midnight Express or something that Christopher Lee is in. I'm blanking on it.
yeah.
We did a psychoanalysis episode.
Horror
on it,
Express.
So.
It's Horror
Express.
Yes.
That's right. Yes, and that was right. I don't know if that's Hammer.
Awesome. I don't know.
It is awesome.
I was like, that's a big surprise where it's like, I cannot believe how fun this is. I don't think that is a Hammer horror film, but it's awesome.
Well, all that to say, I'm not an expert in Hammer horror. And by not an expert, I mean know very little, to the point that I actually thought this was a Disney movie probably because of the Daniel Radcliffe connection. And also when it came out, I made some stupid Twitter joke about how this is The Ring if you did it through the Disney studios, because the plot is very similar, But yeah, so we're going to talk about The Woman in Black. We're going to talk about the Britishness of it and I don't know, not Disneyfication, but I love how fucking scary this movie is and that it is so chaste. Like this is, I think PG-13, I believe. But it's,
I could believe that. Yeah.
But it's super fucking scary. In my very first podcast where we used to rank how scary things were, this was like one of the highest. This and like Sinister.
Yeah, I can see that.
Very bleak. Like I completely forgot. Like I know we'll talk about it, but just I completely forgot. I was like, man, this movie's kind of like
I forgot too.
It's mean.
That opening shot, I was like, oh, I forgot. Here we are.
All that to say, a bit of a content warning. We're going to talk about suicide just a little bit in this. It's, not the main crux of the episode, but we'll probably touch on it. So, just a warning there. Well, let's talk about this bleak story with a lot of dead kids in it. In our first category, her story.
I am so much happier now that I'm dead. Technically missing. Soon to be presumed dead. Gone. And my lazy, lying, cheating, oblivious husband will go to prison for my murder.
This is a section where we tell the story of the film. Spoilers abound, so listen at your own risk. I almost gave an extra spoiler warning here because I feel like that ending is kind of a twist, but it's definitely the very end of the movie.
It's at the end of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I did give a spoiler warning. So, okay. Arthur Kipps is a young widower struggling to hold it together after his wife died in childbirth several years ago. On thin ice with his mean law firm, Arthur is sent to Crithen Gifford, I believe. I feel like I need to say it with some kind of, I cannot roll my R's, so Crithen Gifford.
Nailed it.
Yeah, it does need a rolled R, man.
It does, I know, and I just am physically incapable. But maybe if I eat a crumpet while
there you go. Gotta get
reading.
Some tea.
Exactly. Yeah. So he goes to this town to settle the affairs of Mrs. Alice Drablow, who recently died at Eel Marsh House. Okay, and also, side note, I have a British boss, and part of his job is to write songs and create stories, and it's always the most British names that he makes up. It's like Mrs. and also all of these Miss Alice Drablow and Crithen Gifford. It's so funny. It's like Mrs. Fezziwigs is who he's always making names up.
I felt with Eel Marsh House. I was like, that is the most British sounding place.
It's definitely located next to Crimson Peak, right?
Right?
They're neighbors.
Absolutely.
Yes, they're on the same street.
Yeah.
The house on Newbolt Street is at the very end.
There we go. Just this cursed cul-de-sac of British houses on hills.
Sounds kind of awesome.
Right.
I would
Trick-or-treating there is really crazy.
Totally. Maybe you camp out. Yeah. Maybe you get a piece of candy. Maybe you get a full-size candy bar. Maybe you get a human bone.
Maybe
you
get murdered.
Self-immolate when you get to the Woman in Black's house. I don't know.
Dude, I had forgotten about that too. Okay, we'll get there. Okay. So the townspeople treat Arthur with hostility and keep trying to send him away. They definitely don't want him to go to Eel Marsh House or the causeway leading up to it. The road is covered each day by the tide, and several years ago, a boy drowned in the thick mud, which has got to be one of the worst ways to go.
Ugh, yeah.
Oh, I know.
As it turns out, Eel Marsh House is the scariest place on Earth. It's not only rotting and overgrown, but there are cobwebs and creepy toys in the nursery. Every time you think it can't get scarier or more gross, it does.
It does.
Also, there's an ominous woman in a black dress and veil who wanders around just out of sight. Arthur glimpses her standing in the overgrown cemetery, but she's gone when he goes out to investigate. Back in town, he tries to help a little girl who drank lye, but she dies. The townspeople are devastated and blame Arthur, particularly the innkeeper, whose 3 daughters we've seen jump out an attic window in the film's opening scene. The only one who understands why he can't just pick up and leave is Sam Daly, an older man who invites him to stay. Mrs. Daly is grieving the loss of her own young son, Nicholas, who died many years ago, and believes the boy is trying to speak and draw through her. We eventually learn that every time someone sees the woman in black, a child from the village dies. Hoping to get this whole thing over with, Arthur has the genius idea of working through the night in this creepy house. What can go wrong?
Insane. This is an insane choice.
It
Exactly.
really is.
Even if you have a dog, I'm like,
No, we'll get to it, but the classic, like, the whole town has been like, hey, don't.
exactly. Just don't, And
Just
there
don't.
does come a point where he doesn't go back again. So I'm like, well, did you lose your job? I mean, I guess he did
He lost more than that.
by default,
Yeah.
So yeah, he spends the night in this house. Going through the paperwork, he learns that Alice Drablow, mistress of Eel Marsh House, had her sister Jeanette declared mentally unwell and took away her young son, Nathaniel. He's the boy who drowned in the marsh, and Jeanette will never forgive her sister. But as a thunderstorm rages outside, he hears strange noises from the nursery and sees a child climb out of the mud and walk towards the house. Outside, he sees the bodies of other children, presumably those taken by the woman in black. He also hears strange noises coming from the nursery. This turns out to be remnants of Jeanette's death by suicide. Her death certificate reads, self-murder, body hanging from beam in Eel Marsh House nursery. When another child dies, Arthur decides to put things right. He and Sam pull Nathaniel out of the mud, that's the little boy's body, and reunite him with Jeanette's corpse. Yes, that means cracking open her casket and dumping his body in. It's muddy and gross, but seems to work. With the curse lifted, everything's fine. Arthur prepares to meet his son and his son's nanny at the train station. Instead of the weekend holiday they had planned, they're getting the fuck out of Crithen Gifford. But the woman appears and lures him onto the tracks. Arthur rushes to save him, and they're both hit by an oncoming train. Reunited with his wife, the family walks together into the light while Jeanette watches them go. So yes, bleak as fuck. And also really, really scary too. So I want to
Yes.
talk about like what's our story with the woman in black, but also what do you think the scariest part is? Shelby, do you remember when you first saw this?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters when it first came out. It was, I mean, because it was right up my alley. It was gothic horror, and I
Mhm.
was so into it. And it was, and one thing I was thinking about when I was watching this, because I don't know if I've seen it since then, was the kind of fanfare, because this was Daniel Radcliffe's first movie after Harry Potter. So it was kind of like everyone was like, let's go see him do something very dark and very different. And he's playing, I remember it was very novel because he was playing a dad. Like, even though he was of dad age, I think him and I are like around the same age, and like dad age, especially for back then, it was like, but no, he's my little teenage wizard boy. I remember
Well,
a
yeah.
lot of people were really weird about him playing this role for some reason.
Because we know he'd be fucking if he's a dad,
Mhm.
Exactly. So like I remember there was like a little bit of that going on, and because like I don't have much of a like my story other than I saw it at the theater and I fucking loved it because it was like, again, right up my alley. I thought it was so scary, so bleak, and I just remember that was the most I remember around it, though, was just everybody being weird about it and it not people not liking it that much. And I remember even thinking, like, I think they don't like it that much because it's Harry Potter, not because it's a bad movie, because this is an excellent ghost movie. Like, I just, it was so good to me. And I love, I have a whole one right here. I just did one on my show. I love gothic horror. I love classic literature, ghost stories. And it felt like something they would have told at Christmas in, 1896 or whatever. And so I
Absolutely.
loved that about it. But yeah, I do remember the weird, like, I wouldn't call it a controversy, but like just everybody being like, I think it was the first time too I remember like a boy being treated like that. He kind of got the Britney Spears treatment of like,
Yeah.
no, you're still a teenager. You still have to be this, and we don't want you to be this, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. You're ours and we can't let you grow up. And actually, I didn't see it in theaters because I think I remember that backlash a little bit. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's fine. Also, I think I was like very pregnant at the time too. So it's like,
Probably not a great time for you
I
to have
was gonna
seen
say,
it then.
it's probably
Yeah.
better
don't
that
think
way,
so.
Jen.
yeah. Well, what do you think is the scariest part, Shelby?
Oh, yeah, scariest part. Oh, honestly, I mean, there's so many great jump scares from her just
Yeah.
appearing. It's hard to choose. But I think the scariest was just every time a new kid popped up. Like,
Mm.
I think the part that was the most troubling to me that sticks out the most is the lie girl because
Yeah.
she looks like sick, but she doesn't look bad. And I think even with the opener, which with the three little girls, there's just something about when you get to that point in the movie, I was not expecting them to keep going with
Mm-hmm.
like this violent child murder, like or death, and it was just so shocking and terrifying. And it was like, no, okay, well, here goes the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Here it goes. Same with the girl in the burning house. When you see the woman in black behind her,
Ooh.
it chills you to the bone knowing exactly what's
Mm-hmm.
about to happen and you can't stop it. And it's like, you bitch. Like, well, you feel so helpless. It's a movie where you feel so helpless. And I love that
Mm-hmm.
about it.
And she looks so scary
So
also.
scary. Great
Mhm.
character design. Like, so simple
Absolutely.
in how
Mhm.
terrifying she is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think considering, we recently talked about Crimson Peak, I think this is always lurking in the back of my mind when I
Mm.
see the ghost from
Mhm.
Crimson Peak. Rachel, what about you? What's your story with the woman in black and what's the scariest part?
I also saw this in the theater and was very excited by it for, I'm trying to remember exactly why, but I do think I was intrigued by the casting. I obviously, like many others, current everything withstanding, like grew up with Harry Potter,
Mhm.
saw those films, saw them in theater. So, and I was like, this is a cool first move. Being a
Mhm.
horror fan at the time and everything, I thought it was a cool first move.
Same. Yeah.
And also, yeah, just a kind of a spooky gothic story at this time, I think was really cool and an interesting choice. I do remember being pretty much absolutely alone. It was like me and whoever I was dating at the time,
Yeah.
saw this in a completely empty theater and but was transfixed the whole time. Could have easily been distracted in an empty theater without, but I was like, no, I'm watching this movie, like go away kind of thing. And it was very creepy. I do remember being like really unsettled, and I mean, being alone in a big space also
Mhm.
did not help. But the sound design and just being in this world, and I think for me, it's always the simplest things that are going to scare me and unnerve me. And this
Mhm.
movie has a lot of those where it's going to hold on certain scenes because a lot of it's Daddy Daniel, like just walking around rooms,
Uh-huh.
looking at things. There's not like a ton of action in this movie necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think they were really good at just having shadows, or you see something in the background and then all of a sudden it moves, and like that's always going to scare me so bad
Yeah.
because that's how I feel in my, even in my own house. Sometimes you look around and you're like,
Yes.
wait, is that a person? No, it's just a coat. It's just a
Yeah.
coat. It's okay. It's okay. It's like I know it, but also, but is it? Is it a ghost?
Mhm.
I don't know. And I think that this movie really plays on that really well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then also just it's really unsettling. Like you said, there's a lot of kids getting it.
Yeah.
And like we're all for fuck them kids on this, on this podcast here and there when they deserve it. But
Mhm.
this feels cruel.
Yeah.
And they really don't, I feel like they don't hold back. They're like you
Mhm.
said, they're not quick deaths necessarily.
Mhm.
There's moments where you feel like, oh, maybe this can be avoided or remedied in some fashion. And then it's nope,
Yeah.
burned alive just in front of your eyes. Like it's wild.
And it's not just the death, it's like we feel the loss too. Because I mean, I want to talk about down the road, like who are we actually punishing here? And I would
Mhm.
argue it's the parents. And I think we just like there's this element of grief that just hangs over this entire movie, but it's still so watchable. Like it doesn't feel unwatchably sad, and I think it doesn't really ever go all the way. It kind
Mhm.
of it pulls its punches a little bit, and that sounds like that's not an insult. I think because it still needs to be a watchable movie, and I think if we really wallowed in the grief of this, then it would be too much.
Well, we
Because
get the
we're
two big punches in the very beginning, and then after the
Mhm.
girl with the lie of the screams of the
Yeah.
mothers.
Yeah.
And I know we have a few others, but those two I feel like were the most like, I mean, whoever those actors were too who did those screams, because
I
whoa,
know.
what a horror scream. Like, and just the grief you hear, and then
Mhm.
my babies, like,
Mhm.
oh, again,
Yeah.
that was the opener. Is like,
Yeah.
what the hell? Yeah.
Well, and it immediately sets the tone. And I think part of what I was trying to kind of fumble around for earlier is it's not gory at all. Like
No.
the lie death, I think is well, and when the girl lights herself on fire, those are like that's the most gore that we
But
see.
even the fire, we mostly see just CGI fire. They don't
Yes.
make it graphic.
And
but
that
yeah,
is one moment where
yeah.
I think, because I know we complain about CGI fire a lot, because most of the time it looks like garbage. This is a moment where I think it's beneficial, because I don't
Yeah.
want to see this girl lighting
Exactly.
herself
I
on
agree.
fire.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because we watched the entire thing happen, you know.
Mhm.
But I also think, you know, in Danse Macabre, Stephen King talks about the 3 different types of horror. We have horror, terror, and the gross out. And this movie hits all 3 of those. Like you said,
Yeah.
Rachel, it is Daniel Radcliffe wandering around in this scary environment for the longest time. And it's really effective. And I would say it's not overused. I don't think the jump scares are overused either. But then I remember the first time watching this, I think I watched this with Corey at home. And like I said, I was like very pregnant, and I have this memory of us like reclining in our little recliners and watching this and turning the lights out and not really expecting much, but being like really blown away by it. And, you know, we hadn't been married or together very long. So it was one of the earlier horror movies we watched together. And he got me into Harry Potter when we first started dating. Like I started to read all the books when we started dating. So it was kind of this thing he was really excited about. And I mean, yes, I know Harry Potter has aged like old milk. We're not talking about that. Just Daniel Radcliffe. But I love Daniel Radcliffe so much. And I think this was his first movie, but he'd also done Equus, which was the play where he's naked in. So I agree. It's like such a great, I think, way to say I'm not this character anymore, even though it still feels very much in the Harry Potter world because it is so British, but it's just,
it's
so
so
completely
British.
different.
So British.
Which also I was really surprised to find out, and I guess I didn't realize this at the time, but like kind of prepping for this pod, I thought this was an old story. Story.
No,
It's not.
it's
It's
not.
based on a book by Susan Hill. Have y'all read that book?
No.
I haven't read it, but it was written in like the 80s. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds. It's like around the time of like Lois Duncan's "I Know What You Did Last Summer." It's like it's got that kind of vibe. I have read it. Well, I've listened to it, and it's really good. It's very similar. Like they didn't make a whole lot of changes to the story, but it's also really short too. So I would highly recommend it. And it is
definitely.
Listen to it. It is the creepiest fucking book.
Ooh,
Like,
I'm excited.
I
I've
loved
always
it.
wanted to read it, but I did know that about it because I remember looking it up. Again, thinking it was written in 1902 and like
It was like one of the Bronte sisters wrote it or something. But
exactly,
no, it's modern.
exactly. Ooh, then I'm gonna ask you about the ending when we kind of get there because I know they changed the ending for the audience in this one, which I actually like the change of the ending, just maybe because I was like, I need something. But I also want to ask you, Jen, what is this like now watching? I mean, I know you were a mother already when you watched it the first time, but like you're the resident mother. What is it like watching as a mother?
Okay, if you had asked me this 7 years ago, I think my answer would probably be different because Rachel has heard me talk about how I could not read Pet Sematary after having kids. Like that was, I used to read that at the pool. I would probably read it 3 or 4 times a year. It's the book I've read the most. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I still do. But after having kids, I could not get past the kite part. And I was like, nope, I know it's coming. And I do remember watching this a couple of months after having my first child because I was pregnant, but I hadn't, she wasn't born yet. So I don't think I was quite thinking about that in a way that I would for the next couple of years. And I could not watch anything with kids in danger because it was just like I saw my kids. Like to this day, I'm still terrified of alligators because you remember when that alligator ate the little boy at Disney World?
Yeah.
That kid looked just like my son and was the same age. And so I have this weird thing about alligators to this day. Now that my kids are now 13 and 11. Look, I had to think for a minute how old my kids are. Just ask me how old I am, and I'll have no idea.
25, of course.
Oh, absolutely, 25. Yeah. It is a little bit easier now just because I've kind of, like, he goes out and plays, and I tell him be home by dark. So I've kind of loosened the reins a little bit, and they're not so dependent on you. But yeah, this is a really hard watch for parents. The grief, the thing that hit me this time was thinking about raising my kids by myself, like if something happened to Corey, because
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's one, children dying, but it's also your partner dying too,
Yeah.
especially in childbirth. Like the way they unveil this too, where they hand him the baby and then they just say, I'm sorry. And then the weight of
Oof.
all of that kind of hits you. I think that was the thing that felt even harder for me this time, But yeah, it's a hard movie. And I would love to hear listeners, if you have young kids,
Yes.
let me know, because I didn't watch this until my kid, like I think I revisited it like a couple of years ago because I wrote about it, and that's when I read the book. So yeah, I don't really have a strong memory of watching it when my kids were really young, but I bet it probably would have really fucking bothered me, especially as like visceral and cruel as some of these deaths are,
Yeah, absolutely. And just undeserving. And none of them,
Yeah.
these families, it's not like, I don't know, like Freddy Krueger where like he did, they all like burned him alive or so. It's like it's not like there's no
Yeah.
reason for it from the townspeople. I think that's what really got me too. Is like they did nothing. They had no part in any of this and they're being
Yeah.
punished.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about that some more.
Oh,
Yes.
me too. Yeah, I've got some thoughts about that. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in this sad, sad town in our next category. Who is she?
I just wish we could all get along like we used to in middle school. I wish that I could bake a cake made out of rainbows and smiles and we'd all eat and be happy.
She doesn't even go here.
Do you even go to this school?
Okay, so we have Miss Jeanette Humphrey, and yes, that is MS, no R there, because she's unmarried, I believe. And then we have Mrs. Alice Drablow. Oh, bitch. I'm hearing Ron Swanson say, oh, bitch, the woman with me. Oh, bitch. I have some thoughts about her. Although we never really meet either one of them, which I kind
Nope.
of love. The story is really about the legacy of what has happened rather than
Mhm.
these two women. Their victims are Nathaniel, who is Jeanette's son, Jeanette herself, the children of Criffin Gifford. My tragic pronunciation is a victim of this movie also, so apologies to everyone. And then Arthur and his son at the end. Okay, and our motive, grief, and we shall discuss. And then the weapon is her image. Although this is the thing that's extra devastating, is that the kids are dying by suicide. Like she is making them do it to themselves. So that's part of why I didn't list all of the weapons, because it's kind of just
Yeah.
like weapons of opportunity, like what's
Yeah.
around, or what's different than the last thing I did, what's creative, but it's really witnessing her or seeing her. That's what the weapon is. Okay, but let's backtrack just a little bit. So we never officially find out what happened between the two, but I think we can piece it together. And it's been a while since I've read this book, so I don't remember if we go into any more detail there. But I'm going to read a couple of things that that Daddy Radcliffe finds in some of these letters. Jeanette writes, Dear Alice, you leave me no choice but to give up my son. If you have your doctors deem me mentally unfit to raise my child, what can I do? You and Charles can take him from me, but he is mine. And then later she writes, I believe you are not doing this for the good of the boy, but to cause me pain. And then after the accident, because the carriage drowned in the mud, but Mr. and Mrs. Drablow managed to get out, she writes, you didn't try to save him. You just saved yourself. You didn't even give him a proper burial. You just left him there in the mud. His blood is on your hands. I will never forgive you. Rot in hell. And part of me wanted to do the Britney
I
version.
knew the second I saw it, I was like, I have to ask Jen if she said it. Rotten hail.
Rotten Hail from Vanderpump Rules. If you're not familiar, if you haven't watched it, you should, because it's amazing. Yes, she says it much classier than poor Brittany does. Okay, so what do we think happened here? I think we can assume that it's Jeanette was not married and had a child out of wedlock, and that's why. Rachel, is that what you think happened?
Oh, I did not immediately go there. That makes sense. That, yeah, she had this child out of wedlock and they were already married. So in their minds, it was less of a scandal if we take this child and he is ours.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I kind of thought it was more she wasn't seen as fit to be a parent in some ways. And maybe this was part of it, maybe the fact that she had this child out of wedlock was part of that picture. But I did think that there was other elements. Maybe for some reason they thought she had some sort of mental deficiency. And who knows what that means, right?
Yeah.
It could have been, maybe she did have something. Maybe she had ADHD or something.
Yeah.
Maybe she had but something that was seen as you are not stable.
Mhm.
You are not rational. You are not appropriate to be a mother.
Yeah.
And you cannot handle this responsibility in the proper way. Now, I kind of like that they never really go into it because it leaves it open-ended because even though this was written in the 80s, I mean, this applies to all time periods, right? No matter what time period you look at, there are correct ways to be a woman and there are incorrect ways, and how
Yep.
society judges you, and like you don't deserve to be that's not how a mother acts. And oh my God, I don't have kids, so I'm not on a lot of those like mom feeds, but like I cannot even imagine how toxic some of those are, telling you how to be and not even just a mom, like a parent, how to correctly parent your child, right?
Breastfeeding discourse is the most toxic shit you will ever see.
So it makes sense why, if we're looking at this period, that this could very plausibly happen to somebody. And it did happen to a lot of people. Like something I kind of not even recently learned about, but within the last 10 years learned about, was just kind of like the Irish laundries that existed in Ireland. Where like if you've ever seen the movie The Devil's Doorway, it's about that, where like women were shipped off to these, and they called them like laundries, but really they were homes where they sent pregnant young women to have their babies, and then they'd take them. And it was kind of like half mental institution, half like adoption agency, but a lot of the babies ended up being killed. It's crazy.
Like, mass
true story.
Graves of
mass
babies.
graves of babies.
Yeah.
Like true story. If you want to look into it, very disturbing.
It's really disturbing. It's so interesting though. Yeah, I'm the same. I just learned about that within the last 10 years, and it's
yeah. So it's like this stuff did kind of happen, and so it's curious because it does seem like, from what we're reading, that it doesn't seem like there was anything too wild, like wrong, quote unquote, wrong with her. But I don't know, you isolate somebody for so long, like it makes sense why she ends up here. Like in some ways it's, what came first? Did they create her, or was she monstrous to begin with? It's that whole idea of just the monstrous feminine, right? That who is it, Barbara Creed, is that who like in her book talks about, but just sort of how that can metastasize and create something altogether different and altogether more monstrous. And that's what we kind of get here.
Yeah, this kind of stain that lingers over the house forever, kind of like Crimson Peak, too.
And stain is such a good way to put it, because everything is grimy.
It is so grimy. I know part of me was like, people were living in this house. Like, maybe that's part of the curse, too, is like, I cursed my sister to live in this
disgusting
house.
But how long ago? The timeline is really murky here.
And it's a little is murky because it's like, it feels like it only happened like 10 years ago or something.
But we also know that Nicholas, who is Sam's son, would have been Daniel Radcliffe. I've got to start calling him his name.
So that would have been probably
age.
10, 12, 15
years. Yeah. So it's been a while,
That's true. Yeah.
Well, Shelby, what do you think happened here? Was it just woman with ideas syndrome?
Hysteria. Like,
she started a podcast about feminine rage.
Banish her to the attic.
Exactly.
Look, just lock your wife in an attic so you can find your new wife. It's what
I mean, isn't that half
why
of Gothic
not?
horror?
But speaking of Jane Eyre, the thing about in Jane Eyre, it does end up being that the wife was mentally ill, and like that's why the family pushed her off. And so like in this, I was kind of thinking, it was like, look, I do think that it was absolutely just the way women were treated at the time. She, I think that it's would be correct thinking, if we ever asked the author, like, yeah, she had a child out of wedlock and she was just treated poorly because she was like, I don't know, for some reason the unfavored sister of it seems like they probably both came from wealth. I mean, I know Mr. Drablow seemed to be the wealthy one, but still it seems like they both would have been of means in some way. But saying that, just to like add this in, she did lose her son and then commit suicide and then decide to kill everyone else's kids. So like, that's not exactly the reaction of someone who would be like the best mother. So it's like, I don't know, then not to play devil's advocate, but like, what if they did see something in her that was like disturbing, and like maybe you won't be the best mom because the overkill in the afterlife of everyone will pay for what was done to my son. These innocent children, I will collect them like Pokemon cards in the afterlife and have them stand around freaking out anybody who comes by. And if you even deign to look upon my face, I'm going to kill your fucking kid. Or if you don't have a kid, I'm going to take someone else's kid. If anyone sees me, I'm going to be taking a kid. So I thought about it last night because I've always been on the train of like, this is a story of a woman who was mistreated. But then I was like, ugh, I don't know. Maybe there was something that the sister saw in her that was like disturbing, and like, let's maybe get the kid out of here for a reason. I hate to be that way because so many women were so mistreated at that time, and I do think that's probably what the author was going for, but I couldn't help but think like, well, if I became a ghost, would that be my legacy as a ghost?
Would I murder children?
When I murdered children. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and I think part of why I think of this, I keep thinking of it in terms of Disney, is because it's just such a simplified story. And again, that is not an insult. That's a feature, not a bug, because we know so little about these women that it allows us to kind of, it reminds me of Cocaine Bear, where, spoilers for Cocaine Bear, when we find out Cocaine Bear is a mom, we immediately switch our allegiance, and here it's like, oh, she was a woman wronged. She's not. But then you're right. Like, we just don't know enough. So I think it's kind of a shorthand of this woman lost her child, and so now she's taking everyone's child. And because it's such an oversimplification, because we never learn why Alice did this to her own sister, we can kind of ask ourselves, is it ever okay to take a woman's child away? Like, regardless of what she did, or if someone does take a woman's child away, does that is that a motive to murder in the afterlife? Because it's more about the archetype and the act than it is these actual people, because they're not really characters in the story. They become figures of this kind of Greek tragedy that now is kind of cycling out, so that it's really just a legend. But what Arthur has to deal with is the reality of this. And I think my go-to is, she was unmarried. She was a woman. Maybe she was not the nicest, and so they had doctors declare her mentally unwell. But you're right, Shelby. Like, we don't know. Maybe she was mentally unwell. And I think one of the things I want to talk about a little later is the ending of this movie, which every time I watch it, it strikes me more. We have a woman in white and we have a woman in black, and they both have very different endings, even though their stories are very similar. It's the way they're presented here. And so I don't really see the movie making a statement about which one is better or which one is worse. I think it feels like it's just kind of presenting the story to us and letting us decide. But I think Jeanette is a bad woman, and she is punished for being a bad woman, whether or not she deserves it. And she is like, no, well, if I'm going down, everybody's going down too. And part of me, because this is fictional, admires that, like, I'm not going to be the only one to suffer for this. Y'all are going to live with the consequences of this also.
It's interesting you mentioned the ending too, in that everyone else, like, they're allowed to move on with the woman in white, whereas the woman in black does not allow those children to move on. And Sam says that at one point. He says the reason he didn't believe in the myth and the rumor is because he can't live with the idea that his son is trapped. And he is, though, and that I agree with him. Like, that's a fate worse than death, essentially. And that's the other thing. It's like, what, girl, girl, believe women. And maybe it's Alice we're supposed to believe. I don't know. I've never considered this until watching it this time. And like, just because of how cruel Jeanette is in death, like, but also, I don't know.
I think the other thing about Alice that I think reads as shorthand murderous, and this could just be that I've never been to the moors, or I've never been to one of these roads that gets covered. I have a really hard time understanding how they could get out of the wagon themselves but not get the kid out.
That is true. That is very
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
And like, did this thing sink so fast that they couldn't grab him? And part of me just does not want to consider the fact of a child drowning in mud, because that
I
just
know.
feels like, I don't know if you would even drown at that point. Maybe you would suffocate, because I don't know if you could
Be
actually
crushed
aspirate,
even.
you
Yeah.
know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it's so unthinkable. But also, it feels like quicksand. I guess it is more like quicksand,
Which feels very 80s.
It does feel very 80s, exactly. And quicksand is deadly. If you
We all thought it was the
We
most
all
deadly thing
were
ever.
gonna
in
get
the-
got by quicksand. It was
we're
gonna
gonna be, and if
happen.
we manage to survive to adulthood, we're gonna be marine biologists, because that was the
Yes.
other job in the
That was
80s,
the other job. Mhm.
Like George Costanza.
Yeah. There's anyone a marine biologist? That was one of the best TV reveals ever. Love it so much. Okay, well, that's a much more joyous moment than any in these movies. So let's not get into a carriage, because I think it's going to sink in the mud. Let's go to a train. We're going to be inside the train. Also, I kind of have always wanted to ride a train. You know what? Let's hop aboard the Horror Express, because that's got some old-timey hotties on it. And we are going to get in, loser. We're going killing.
This woman will soon cut, chop, break, and burn 5 men beyond recognition. And there isn't a jury in this country that will convict her.
Okay, so I want to talk about visibility. So we mentioned that it's seeing her that is what unlocks the curse. And it reminded me a lot of The Reaper's Image, that Stephen King short story where if you see the Reaper in the mirror, then it's like 1 in 100 people see the Reaper, and then it's probably more like 1 in 1,000. Anyways, if you see a little Reaper in this particular mirror, then you disappear. And so it's like, the only way to protect yourself is just to not look, But Nicholas, who is the boy speaking through Jeanette McTeer, I think, who I love, and
I love
was
her
a
too.
pleasant surprise when I revisited
Fabulous
this.
in her role in this too. Oh man.
Oh, I know. I love her. Yeah, if I could automatic write, I would scratch the shit out of all my furniture too. But Nicholas says through her, they took her boy away, so now she takes her. So I want to ask, why does Jeanette still haunt the house? Why does she steal children? And why is it viewing her that is what activates it? And Rachel, you kind of hinted that you have some thoughts about this.
Yeah. I mean, I think... she's pissed. And I think there's a lot of readings, obviously, the fact that, this thing that happened to her, nobody is seeing. And even now, it's like the whole town is just kind of not ignoring, but not addressing what is happening, right? It's that that idea of being seen and just being like, no, we're just going to move on. Like, we're not going to deal with that. That's too much. That's sad, whatever. So we're just going to continue moving on like nothing happened. And so when he comes into town and they're like, no, you got to go. You got to get out of here. It's like they know, but at the same time, don't want to actually deal with the situation up on the hill. They're like, let's just let that fester. And if we don't actually, interrogate that, then it's like it never happened.
Yeah.
So I think that that's part of it, is that she's just wanting this tragedy to be acknowledged, and not just the tragedy of losing her son, but the tragedy of what happened to her. And the fact that her son died because of this situation, and nobody did anything about it, even after the fact. Nobody has since tried to get those bodies up. Nobody has since tried to have any sort of feelings, or I don't know, try to resolve this situation. So to me, that's really kind of how it feels. There's something I admire about the fact that she's just so pissed, like you said, Shelby. This is one of those rare things. It's not like a woman in white kind of scenario. I think that is the big contrast here, because we've seen this story before, obviously. And even in movies like The Lady in White, which I think came out at a similar time, that idea of something bad happened to me, but then once, it's resolved, then it's okay and everybody can relax and at peace. And I do kind of like how she's like, no,
No.
nah, bitch.
Still mad.
Yeah.
still mad, gonna be mad,
Mhm.
born mad, die mad kind of thing. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not, that doesn't make it better. Like, I'm still
Mhm.
upset. And, I'm sure we'll talk about that more as we go on. But I think she's just not able to, she's not able, willing, or wants to move on. She can leave the house, though. That's what's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, we see her in other places in this town. Like, she's not
Mhm.
confined to this house.
Mhm.
The fact that she's like, all right, I'm going to town now, and like literally killing kids now because like,
Mhm.
okay, you saw me, you can't deny it, and now you've done nothing. So, all right, that's a kid for you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's my read of it, I think, is that this horrible thing happened to me and y'all all saw it happen and nobody did anything. Nobody told Alice, "Hey, that's not your
Silence is
kid."
complicity.
Exactly. Yeah. And so my son was stolen and I'm going to, because we know that between the time when Alice deems her mentally unfit, which doesn't happen overnight. I'm sure in this time period too, you'd have to like have somebody carriage you over there or like take a train. Like it's, I think it would be a process, but then we also know that she's trying to send her son cards. So that implies a certain, like at least 1 or 2 birthdays. So there's a certain amount of time and it's not a fucking big town. So it's like everybody saw this happen. Nobody did anything about it. And so now if you see me, you are going to be punished for seeing me the first time and not doing anything by me taking control of this story and taking your kid and punishing you the way you punished me, you know? Shelby, what do you think?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, Rachel. The fact that she can move around the town. Like, I know I
hadn't
watched
either.
her do it, but I hadn't thought about how novel it is for a ghost to, like,
Yeah.
especially because this feels like a haunted house movie, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's a haunted town.
Yeah.
not
I
even in
wonder
the
how far
traditional
away
way-
she could get.
Yeah,
too,
I wonder
you
how
know?
far she can go. Does she have a passport? Uh-oh.
Hey.
So, yeah, I think you're on the right track where it's like the town, because this was such a prominent family, you would have paid attention to everything they're doing. They would have had servants who lived in town. They would have had connections to the town and everybody would have watched. And so even though this is now we're on a new generation of parents who would have been the same age as her son. And so they couldn't have stopped it, but she is still pissed. Like, just, yeah, like it was so funny though when Daniel Radcliffe is like, they need to find each other. And I did find that part a little funny just because it was like all of a sudden this like accountant man is like, don't worry, I know how to get the ghosts to find each other.
Okay, that's my other thing. The town did not do this. And, like, yes, he has an automobile, but, like, accountant Daniel Radcliffe and old Sam, who I love, but,
Me
like, you
too.
know, they are like, I'll just take my car and I'll do this and still have time to reunite them and then clean up and then show up at the train station for my 5-year-old son who
Yep.
is not sleepy. So we can imply that it's like maybe evening time, you know? I'm like, I don't think it was that hard for y'all to resurrect this child. You just didn't want to. You didn't
just didn't
care
want
enough.
to.
I
Yeah.
do wonder too, because like how much of that though is actually what she wants and how much of it, because okay, this whole movie is seen through Daniel Radcliffe's, well, not
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe, the character
I know. He'll
Arthur's
always be Daniel
eyes.
Radcliffe, though.
But it's seen through his eyes and his perspective. And I think that that's a fascinating lens to see this movie, especially given the backstory for this character and what he's lost and what he's afraid to lose and all of that kind of thing in the situation he's in. It's like, does she actually even, not that she doesn't want to be reunited with her child, but is that actually what she wants? Is that some resolution?
Yeah,
or is that just what Arthur wants? Because he wants to be...
That's
Yes.
kind of what I was thinking in that scene. Like, I literally like laughed a little bit when he was putting the cards around the child's corpse because I was like, what are, like, did you read this in a book? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're just kind of
Yeah.
like, I guess this is what we do. But he said it was such, I don't know. He was just so like, this is what we've got to do. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
Accountant Daniel, go ahead.
And it feels more cathartic for him almost.
Yes.
Like,
this is what
okay,
he
I'm
would have
making
wanted.
peace.
He wants to
Like
be
this-
reunited. He wants his son to be reunited with his own dead wife in some
Yeah.
way. Like
Yeah.
that's what he wants for himself. He's missing his own wife and the connection that his wife lost with their child. And I feel like you're right. This is what he wanted. And Jeanette's like, bitch.
She's like, the ghost, he's right there. my son is here.
Exactly.
He's
Yeah.
muddy and crawling
He's
out of
muddy.
things, and
Yeah,
but he's dead,
exactly.
and I'm dead, and I'm just pissed about it. Like, so I don't
You
actually.
say I
yeah.
needed to find him. I know where he is. I also know where all
exactly.
the other kids are too. So
They're right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what she ultimately gives him towards the end or at the very end too. So I wonder if there is a moment where she's like, okay, you tried to help
Oh,
me.
you want to be reunited?
I'm still
with your
fucking
son?
mad. You want to be reunited? I'll make that
Okay.
happen. I
I'll
don't
make
know
it
if you'll
happen.
like it, but
Yeah.
well, and I want to ask if we think this is a happy ending. But yeah, that's a good point, Rachel. Like he is smashing her coffin and dumping his body in. And I mean, I wouldn't have done it any different. I also wouldn't the fuck have done it. But that's the part that reminds me of The Ring. It's like you think this is a way to fix this, but maybe some things can't be fixed. And by trying to fix this, you are just like smashing my coffin, digging my grave up, digging his corpse up, you know?
He's mansplaining grief to her.
He is mansplaining grief to her. Absolutely. And she's like, I mean, nice try.
She's like, you don't tell me how to
You
get
don't
over
tell
the
me
death
how to
of my own
grieve."
child. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'll get over it when I'm good and ready, sir.
That is so, yes, exactly. Because she's like, no, I think I'm still going to keep killing these kids and
Yeah.
you now too. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I meant to say my favorite part. The reason that I asked y'all what the scariest part is for me, it is when the kid crawls out of the mud and starts walking. There's just something so scary about this figure walking towards the door.
Yeah.
And you know exactly where he's going and you know you can't do anything about it. And then the dog barking at the
Yeah.
door and the doorknob turning. And that is the terror. That's like, I think sometimes it can be hard to kind of distinguish between terror and horror, but it's just this building dread where you know this creepy ghost is about to like is coming for you and there's nothing you can do about it, you know, because
Exactly.
you chose to spend the night in this house.
Oh, I know. I read in the trivia, by the way, that there's a scene, and I did miss it this time, and I think I missed it the first time, where when he first gets there, you see the kid standing by a tree for like a split second. They said that it like wipes by, but that kid is like standing by a tree when he first gets there, and like it's easy to miss, and I missed it, and I was like, I almost went back, but by the time I read that, I was like almost done with the movie. But I was like, oh, I love that. I love shit like that when you don't know that they're watching you. Like,
Well, it's the kind of thing that I think makes movies like this so much more rewatchable too, you know? And I mean, it always makes me think of 3 Men and a Baby, even though that is not a real ghost that's in the curtain. But that is like one of my favorite pieces of pop culture trivia because I absolutely believed that when
me
I
too.
was little.
Oh yeah.
And I love that movie. Let's, let's talk about a father who doesn't have the help of Tom Selleck and who's the other guy, the little
Ted
guy?
Danson?
Steve Guttenberg. Ted Danson is the actual dad, I
That's
think.
right. And Steve Guttenberg. Yeah.
Steve Guttenberg is, I'm quoting 3 Men and a Little Lady. He's my daddy. He's my honorary daddy. And he's my other honorary daddy. So I watched those movies a lot.
I had both of those on VHS. I watched the
They're
shit
so
out of those.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, the soundtracks are also very good too, very 80s. But yeah, we're going to talk about Daniel Radcliffe daddy. And he's all of our honorary daddies, I think. But before we do that, let's pay some bills. Okay, so let's talk about Arthur. And we were kind of hinting at this before, but I want to talk about this ending and it's so funny because I have just watched this new Dracula, which had no clue this was coming. And then suddenly there's Caleb Landry Jones as Dracula. And I was like, I didn't know redheads could be Dracula. But it's I have a lot of feelings about it. I wrote a review, check that out. But it cracks me up because Christoph Waltz, who was essentially the Van Helsing of it, at the end, after spoilers, he's like, yeah, they should be fine now. At the very end. I think you're oversimplifying like a whole bunch of bad shit that's happened for centuries. Yeah. And that's kind of the vibe you get is like, all right, well, we reunited them. It's fine, you know.
All of a good day's work. Yeah.
Exactly. It's fine. I mean, we got a little muddy, definitely probably ruined your car forever, but, you know, it was old timey, so it's going to be fine. But then we have this voiceover from Jeanette that I love. She's just saying, I will never forgive. I will never forgive. I will never forgive. So why do we think she won't let it go? Why do you think she kills Arthur and the little boy whose name I can't ever remember. I think it's Joseph. And also, I know that this little kid is Daniel Radcliffe's actual godson.
Yes.
That's cute.
It is cute. So yeah, they like had known each other and felt really comfortable, which that little kid is so sweet. Joseph, played by Misha Handley. So Shelby, why this ending? And is this a happy ending?
Why? God, I think she likes being bad. I don't know. Like, I think maybe her kid is in on it now. This whole episode has made me
Shelby's
crazy.
been radicalized.
I have. I'm speaking my truth. Because like I was thinking about it and I was like, wait a second, the kid does crawl out of the mud to freak them out. And then I was thinking about the trivia I just said where he's like standing there watching them as they come in. I need to go watch that part, by the way. I'm going to go watch it. And like, maybe they're like, we have been reunited, you fucking idiot. And we love killing kids together.
Yeah.
This is our mommy-son bonding time. You fucking loser. Like, why don't you go push some papers elsewhere? We are enjoying ourselves. And this is how we didn't get the time together in life. And here we are in death. Like, what?
Take your calculator and get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here with your abacus or whatever the fuck they used in 1832 or whenever this was said. I can't remember. Yeah. Oh, there's a car. It can't be 1832. Sorry.
That's true. It's old-timey.
By the way, I don't know enough about anachronisms when it comes to automobiles, but Daniel Radcliffe fully calls it a car when he sees it. And I'm like, did they call them cars?
That's a good point.
It stood out to me this time. He's like, I love your car or something. And I was like, that felt such a modern phrase. Like,
you know who would know? Marissa Tomei would know about this.
She would.
She knows about car
She
history.
would. Let's get her on the stand.
Let's get her on the blower, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know. I don't know. And that ending, I do think is happy. He was miserable. He didn't really know what to do. The kid was drawing the pictures where daddy was never home. And like, he was about to lose his job. He was gonna lose his job. He didn't finish his job.
He didn't. Yeah.
So like, he was
can't
gonna
just go back to apartment or accountant firm and say murder ghost.
There's a ghost. And like, how was that going to go over? Maybe he was going to get thrown in a loony bin. Like, what's going to happen? So I don't think there was much waiting for him. And I don't know. I just feel like it was a happy ending. I guess it's here where we can talk about how they changed the ending. That's why I wanted to ask you, Jen, about the ending of the book, because the original ending was just them getting fucking murked by a train. And everybody was like, whoa, that's too sad. So they were like, CGI mom. The CGI of the mom was very bad. I don't understand. It was like she was in a totally different country when they filmed her standing
called
there.
Heaven? Okay.
You know what? You got me there. No, because it was just weird. It felt like they filmed that scene separately. Like, it was just strange. The CGI was strange.
They may have.
Because
I do think without that, this is a huge fucking bummer, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Because I did like that they added that. I don't think I would have disliked the bleak ending just because I do enjoy bleak endings. But I do really like the happy, and I do consider it a happy ending. The sad ending was when Sam looks across the train and sees all the dead kids, including his, and it's like, oh shit, I was right to be afraid. My kid is stuck in this weird purgatory with this crazy bitch and her Now I'm putting the son into it. He's also crazy. I think they're colluding to kill the children of the town. I don't know.
Maybe he wants playmates. I'm telling you.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I think I don't know. So yeah, I think it was a happy ending for Daniel Radcliffe and his son because they did get to see mom again. Why she decided to take him at the last minute at the train station, I think like we've all talked about. I think she's just like, how dare you think that that's how I was going to get better?
Yeah.
Let's show you how my actual wrath, like, and how far I can actually get past this fucking house because she can travel, man. She gets places. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. I didn't think about that either, getting out. Because I was like, is she going to be able to follow them back to London? Like, once you are aware of her, can you ever really escape? Which, again, goes back to this. Once you are aware of this evil patriarchal world that we live in, like, how can you ever not do anything about it. And if you don't, like, silence is complicity again, you know? And just the fact that they keep trying to ignore it, and they're like, well, I'm just going to put this right. But when what she really wants is people to pay. She wants people to feel as bad as she does. And part of me wonders if she is trying to help him, but it's just all she knows is death and grief because she's been stuck in this cycle for so
Yeah.
long.
Mhm.
Rachel, what do you think?
Well, maybe it's just her way of teaching a real hard lesson, right? People never understand really until it affects them, right?
Yep.
It's easy to ignore, put it up on a hill, don't look at it, but it's not affecting me, so it's fine. Like, we know it's happening, we know it happened, but it's not affecting me, so it's no big deal. Definitely just talking about this movie and only this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
that does
Well,
not
yeah,
relate
of
to any
course.
larger things
No.
happening in the world, you know?
But here's the thing. I really don't think she was trying to kill Arthur. I think that just happened.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting because we see the kid like get on the tracks, and I think she fully intended on taking him.
Oh.
And I think she's just, it's almost her way of saying, like, not enough. Like, just
Yeah.
because you, like, did this thing, it doesn't forgive everything else. And, like, okay, you might have done one good deed, but that doesn't make up for all the other wrongs or whatever. Not saying that I agree with her in this decision, but it feels like that's her logic.
Yeah.
Is kind of like a final, like, no, you're not exempt from this either. Like, sorry, sir.
So,
You
like,
don't just
when
get
the
to go
mom
home.
showed up, she was like, dang it. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Right.
But when
yeah.
I think when Arthur got in, it changed
Yeah.
it. It kind of changed the trajectory for what she was trying to do, because now he had him, he had the son literally in death, and they were able to move on together. It's kind of how I took it. And unfortunately, I do think this is a best case happy ending scenario for him, because this is what he wanted. His son's never met his mom. Like, we know he's been sad for, I mean, how old is that kid? 4 or 5?
4 or 5, somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
So he's been miserable for 5 years. Clearly, he's going to get fired, so he has no job. So pretty sure this is unfortunately the best case scenario for him. I do find it fascinating. It's also like a larger, I wouldn't say it's a well-explored conversation that the film's having, but just with that idea of like spirituality and what we kind of think and the other worlds, because we see, what's his name, Sam, having that conversation with him. And like, this is what I choose to believe. His wife chooses to believe something completely different. She's very much in touch with the other side.
Yes.
Doing, what do you call it? The automated writing? Is that what it's
Oh, yeah.
called?
I think automatic writing.
Automatic writing, and how she's able to channel that and not move on in certain ways, and just sort of how that looks for different people.
Yeah.
And so I think this is what a happy ending looks like for Arthur.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I would find more hope in the fact that maybe our loved ones are still around. Like, there's this moment in Paranormal Activity 2, which probably feels like a far stretch, but where the dad, I think, is asking, like, well, why did you want to contact this ghost? And the girl says, well, because maybe it's mom, you know. This idea of like, maybe I could still talk to them, for me, feels maybe more reassuring than they're just in the sky, and maybe I'll get there someday too, but I have no connection. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of changing how I feel about that. And listen to some recent episodes. I think it was Veronica where we talked about Ouija boards and stuff. I think we talked a little bit more about this. But yeah, I don't know. It also reminds me of Flatliners, the original 1990, I think, which is one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. And I think there's a read of that the main character is really suicidal throughout. And I think we can have that read here. Like, it is, from Arthur's perspective, the best case scenario, because what he wants is to be with his wife. He doesn't want to be here anymore, you know. And I think we could maybe broaden that to the parents in this town, knowing that these horrible things exist in the world that their kid might fall victim to, like living with that every day and just hoping today's not the day that your kid dies is so stressful and hard. And it almost feels like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you know what the fuck I would do? I would move out of this town, you know? Or like if dudes in town, I think about this with the purge. Like I would go to a different continent that way, like for a month around purge time. That way I would be safe. I just simply would not be around. And I think when Arthur shows up and he's going to town, or he's going to this Eel Marsh house, get the fuck out of that town for a couple of weeks. But none of them do that. And it's almost this kind of, they feel like maybe they should be part of this cycle. So I think there's just, like I said, there's a pervasive feeling of grief over the entire story. And I think Arthur is absolutely consumed with that. So from our perspective, from the perspective of someone who says, yes, your wife died, that is horrible, but let's get you some help so you can move forward. It is a sad ending. But for him who is caught in this, who can't really see outside of it and has a hard time connecting with this kid. And look, it's easy for me to say that. I cannot imagine what it would be like to lose your partner in childbirth. Like think about the Babadook, but also how she has a hard time connecting with her son because of that. I do think it's read or it's coded as a happy ending. And I cry every time he's like, that's your mummy, because you think it's going to be the woman in black.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's the best case scenario. And they're like, okay, well, maybe he is in a better place. Maybe he gets to leave this world where it's nothing but pain. And, people talk about as soon as you have a child, you start wearing your heart like way out on your sleeve because it's just like the world is so dangerous. And I remember on Murder Made Fiction, we were talking about John Wayne Gacy, and I could not let my kids go to the bus stop without watching them until they got on the bus. Cause it's just like, once you know these things are possible, it's terrifying.
Well, that's a good point that I haven't thought about either. Kind of like Derry in a lot of ways. Not that I'm not trying to like put blame on anybody on these fictional characters, but also where were the parents? The thing is, Arthur was there to not save his son, but to kind of take ownership back of his son from the woman in black. Where will, even with the girl with the lie, it's her brothers who walk her in.
And they literally say
she just
because
drank
their
lye.
mother left. And
and they lock the one girl in the basement too. I'm like, I don't know if that's
so it's kind of an interesting, I don't know if it's a comment or if it's intentional, but it feels intentional in some ways because it's like all of these kids are dying when their parents aren't around. And so it's kind of like, well, not to say that maybe you could have stopped this, but also maybe you could have stopped this.
Yeah, that is a good point because I bet if it weren't a train, if he could have gotten out of the train track walls, he probably
maybe could have snapped him out of it in some way, or she would have all right, I'll try again later. Zoom right to the hill.
Well, and he tries to save the little girl with the fire too, and he just can't because there's a wall of fire. I thought about that though, if he was able to save him, because there's a moment where you don't know. And I think it's so interesting because of the moment in Harry Potter when Daniel Radcliffe also wakes up on the other side of death, no spoilers, and he's in a train station and
I know, he loves his trains.
He does. And I love that for him
because he looks great on them. It's
he
great.
Sure does. His blue eyes also.
His eyes were so blue in this. Oh my God. I don't know if I've ever realized how blue his eyes are.
It's so funny, Rachel, because we were just talking about Banshee with Anthony Starr's blue eyes and his brown hair. And I was thinking about that as we were watching. I was like, oh, Daddy Radcliffe. But yeah, I also wonder, because she's taking the children, and I think there's I think the obvious read is she's taking the children to punish the parents, Yeah,
well, look how good of parents you are. Not even paying attention to what your kids are doing.
Able to keep
I'm the
my
one who's
child.
unfit.
I would have spent every second with him. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you're taking for granted the privilege that you have.
That might have been part of the crazy that she was accused of, is that she was kind of a helicopter parent, and that wasn't done back then,
Right. Yeah. Well, and I also wonder if she's trying to kind of shut this town down because she's taking their next generation, and she's like, you guys are perpetuating this, it still seems like a very patriarchal world, even though we don't see anybody else's sons get stolen. It's very it's of the time period, and the town is just so fucking sad. And yeah, maybe not really watching their children. So maybe she's like, no, this town does not need to keep going, and who would move here because the houses look disgusting. So, I wonder who would buy this. Who would buy a house called Eel Marsh House? That doesn't sound appealing. It's like Sudden Valley from Arrested Development. It's like that doesn't sound good. There's one near my neighborhood called Lookaway Farms. I'm like, I don't know if that's
That
saying
sounds
what you think
haunted.
it's.
That sounds.
It does sound haunted, or like, don't look at me, like
Yeah.
bad shit. But okay, so I want to talk about women in black, women in white, particularly this moment at the end in our next category. Good for her.
Claiming she could take it no more, the young mother released the emergency brake, allowing her car to roll backwards into the nearby lake.
Good for her.
Okay, so anytime we have a woman in all black and a woman in all white, I have to put my little feminist hat on. And like, who are we saying is the good woman and who are we saying is the bad woman and why? And what I love is that we really don't learn much about either of these women. We just know the legacy that they're leaving behind. But then also, this girl that's locked in the basement. I think it's so interesting. And it struck me on this watch that she says to Arthur, you killed Victoria Hardy. You are the one who did this. And it's because he is seeing it. And he is the one. Also, I think it's so funny that they don't just fucking tell him why they don't want him to go to the house, you know?
Oh, yes.
And like, it takes so long for him. And I mean, I guess it's just because
it would
of
sound
us,
bonkers.
the viewer. Well, it would sound bonkers. And also, like, we have to discover that through the writing and stuff. But like, I wonder if they just told him, like, hey, kids are going to die if you go there, don't go there. But they blame him. They blame his presence as an agent of change, as the one who is igniting a new round of their killer kids. So, Rachel, who do you think the real villain of this story is?
It's a great question, Jen. I'm so glad you asked.
Is it the patriarchy?
I was going to say, some might say it's the patriarchy. One
Always
could
the villain
say
of every
it's the
story.
patriarchy. I,
We need merch that says it's the patriarchy, stupid.
For real. When in doubt, it's the
Yeah.
patriarchy. I think there are multiple villains here because I do think the woman in black is a villain. And I
Yeah.
think she's an unapologetic villain. Is she completely off her rocker? No pun intended in this case. Not necessarily. Do I think she's gone a little far with her, revenge tour? Maybe.
Revenge. Yeah.
I do think so. Was she wronged? I do believe so. I do believe she's wronged, but I think that she is maybe she needs to pivot. She needs to reassess. This approach is clearly not working. She's been trying for decades and decades to make whatever point it is, and clearly it's not sinking in. So let's reassess here. I don't think that Arthur is a villain. I think it's unfair to say, like, you killed her because, he's just coming in and observing what he's seeing. He's not, rushing to judgment and anything. And I do think his personal situation allows him to give it leeway to sort of allow it to unfold a little bit because he wants to believe there about the afterlife. He wants to believe there is life because he wants that for his wife and to have some sort of connection with her. Like, it wouldn't make sense if he's like Sam, like, I don't believe in this. And like, that's not it. So I think there's a lot of villains. I do think the townspeople are villains in their own right. I do think something bad happened with her sister. And obviously her son did die. Was that a villainous act? I don't necessarily see it that way, but that sucks. Like, that does suck.
Yeah, it does.
I don't think
suck.
they're not villains for that necessarily, but the fact that they were keeping her in the same house, locked away from her son, that's villainous behavior. Like, at least have the decency to send her away somewhere.
Right.
And attempt to, maybe if she needed help, if that was the issue, then get her help. But locking her in an attic is not helpful while her son is running around the premises and she's not allowed to interact with him. Like, that is infuriating. I can see that. So that is villainous behavior. But I do think there's multiple levels of villains here, with the woman in black being one for sure.
Well, and Shelby, I feel like I know who your two villains are. What do you think?
Well, God, I've gone on a journey, you guys. Gone on a journey this whole episode.
But that's like, I love fully considering all angles of these movies, especially ones like this that feel simplified, because maybe there is more to the story. you know?
Yeah. And I hate the whole, like, I mean, devil's advocate gets done too much, but like, yeah, okay. the superhero duo of Janet and the son, who we learn his name at some point,
I
don't
think it's
we?
Nathaniel,
Yeah,
I think.
it is.
Nathaniel. Okay. Nathaniel and Janet, or Janet, not Janet.
Damn it, Janet.
Damn it,
Janet.
Janet.
I love you.
I actually fully think it is. I do think she was wronged. Like you said, she was locked away in the same house. A lot of that ideal too, like, there's a lot of him seeing things out the window, especially the scene where like the handprint appears in the window and it's on the outside. That could be like, that's what she had to do. She could only see him from the window, and like that's
Yeah.
torturous. And that would make
Mhm.
most people, I think, a villain, especially a mother. I think it'd make most mothers villains. And so I think she's justified in becoming one, but she is definitely one, It's like hurt people. And so
Yes.
I think that's Janet's story is she's a hurt person who hurt
You
people.
know who the real villain is? Now that I think about it, who the fuck is Nathaniel's dad?
Yeah, who's
Yes.
Nathaniel's dad?
Uh-huh.
Who's the dad that just
Honestly,
walks
I kept
away
thinking the first time I
scot-free?
watched this, I thought it was going to be Sam Daly. I really thought he was going to be more involved.
Oh.
Because
I
he
mean, do we
seems
know
just-
that it's not?
Because he gets real like weird about the story, the age
Yeah.
of the children matchup of his, his own child. He's a little.
True.
I like him and I love his character and I love that
Yeah.
actor. Is it
Mhm.
Kieran
Mhm.
Hines? Something like that.
Yes.
But there's just something a little squirrely about him when pushed about this story. Obviously, we get the explanation of like, well, I don't like talking about it because I can't think of my child being stuck somewhere. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like, okay. And then he goes, I don't know, he agrees to help Daddy Daniel over at the homestead to like
Yeah.
pull, he agrees to pull the carriage. There was just something about it. I remember the first time watching it, the whole time expecting this to come out, that he was in one of the letters or something about him, because I just felt that I don't know if maybe the actor played it that way to make it a little more mysterious, to add some sort of level of like what happened. Because, and this is what I do love about the movie, because this is kind of what it is with like interpersonal things, is we don't necessarily get the whole story. I have, recently I got like not an estate sale, but at a used bookstore. It's this like personal, it was supposed to be like a desk diary for like a, like a businessman for a secretary to keep. But this woman, she started it that way, but she turned it into like her own diary. And she's like from Salem, Massachusetts. They moved to California for some reason. And there's just so many little things that she doesn't explain because it's her diary. So like there are some interesting things in there like this, where it's like in these letters, they're not giving us exposition. They're sisters. Why would they? And I love that about this. So they're not naming names and giving exact reasons, because it's like, well, why we locked you up. And it's like,
Yeah.
even if you don't agree with it, why kind of stuff. And that's what I like. But I do feel like there was something about Sam. I don't know. I feel like he's involved somehow. I don't know.
Well, because when his wife is experiencing mental anguish over the death of her child, he fucking chloroforms her. Like, that is his solution.
Yeah.
And as much as I agree with you, I really love Sam's character, and I think he is meant to represent a father figure for Arthur and
Daddy Sam.
his wife. Daddy Sam, exactly, and Granddaddy Sam.
Granddaddy
And
Sam.
I can still get it. And I do think his wife is in need of maybe some mental health help that doesn't exist yet. So she's like, here are my child dogs,
Hey, I can relate.
I totally thought that. I was like,
loved
this was probably weird for that time period, but nowadays it's not that weird.
No, it's
I was
totally
like,
fine.
yeah, of course
I was
her
like,
dogs have
I
their
kinda
own
love this.
bassinet. Like, I don't see
Yeah.
the, I
There
don't
is
see the problem. My
nothing
cat has
wrong.
like 3 beds back there. I don't see the problem.
Exactly. Oh yeah, we almost had to cancel this podcast, listeners, because my cat was on my legs, and of course I can't move her. You know. But yeah, I hadn't thought about that. But they're similar means. Like, he seems to be the only other family.
He's like that's like the other rich family,
Exactly. Yeah. So they definitely would know each other and have interacted. And, I could definitely see that. Maybe that is why she took their child. Like, we don't know that Nicholas, who is their son, is the first one that she took, but that would make sense. And then maybe she's like,
feel
hey,
I felt like they were implying
like
that.
this.
It was
I
a
don't know.
long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think I agree with you. And I also, part of why I love this is because she does double down and she's like, no, I'm just going to kill y'all because, we've already discussed, but also because it's not enough. Like, how many times has a woman been wronged and we just want, like, the solution is just pat her on the head and say, oh, I'm sorry, we won't do it, or like some corporation is going to like donate to Women's Month or something, and it's just, it doesn't mean anything because nobody has to feel the pain that women feel when they are wronged. And by extent, like minority groups also, anybody
Yes.
but white men, like, it's not until you actually feel the pain of that you understand the harm that you've caused. And so part of me is like, yeah, punish the fuck out of them because they didn't do anything. And I think it's so interesting how it models a lot of stuff that's going on right now, because it is this drawing attention to it that is read as villainous. And how many times it's like, I'm trying not to like name any names that are going to get us flagged or anything or get too personal, but like when women report things, like if the accusers of a certain person that you like, they become the villains because they are drawing your attention to a fucked up situation. It's not the actual thing that happened. It's, I have to know about this now. I have to reckon with the fact that the world I live in harmed this woman.
I got fired from a job one time because I reported someone who was like threatening me with like rape, and it was someone I worked with, and I got fired. This was in 2008, 2009. Yeah.
Jesus.
And like I was like, when I reported it, I showed the messages because it had been sent to me over Facebook. The first thing that was said to me by my superior was, well, actually it's in the handbook that you're not supposed to have fellow employees on Facebook as friends on Facebook. And I was like, I'm sorry, are
the
you
victim,
yeah,
right?
looking
what
at the
were
same
you wearing,
messages
Shelby?
I'm seeing?
Oh.
And it was insane. I mean, I won't get into the whole story, but like, yeah, like I've absolutely seen, like, I've been a part of that before. And you feel crazy,
Well,
maybe I would have.
yeah.
So I didn't kill all the kids in town, but maybe if it would have been a similar situation, maybe I should have. Maybe I should have.
But I think that's a good point. It's they're more reacting to the reaction than they are to the inciting event, right? Like, it's not what happened that they're paying attention to. It's her behavior after the fact. And it's like, that's not what we should be focusing on here.
Exactly.
Like, let's go back a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why I love that we don't necessarily know exactly what happened, because if we knew enough to side with Alice or Jeanette, then I think it would complicate the story, when really this is a story about a town's reaction to a horrible thing that happened. And then we have a change agent coming in and saying, maybe y'all should do something about this. Maybe instead of just like crossing your fingers and hoping it won't happen to you, women who feed the patriarchy. And like, I'm thinking about someone who said, well, my sister, she's just really confident she would never let that happen to her. And I was like, well, yeah, but she also is the boss's daughter. So of course they're not going to fuck with her. You hope it's not going to happen to you. And it's not until it does that you take it seriously. And so I like that we have a man having to deal with that, because Daddy Radcliffe, one, he's a single parent. So he has a nanny, but he's having to shoulder the weight of this parenting burden. But he also realizes what happens when people fuck with you. Like, and I wonder too, because there is a parallel between Jeanette being a single parent and him being a single parent too.
There is.
And he's like, well, why is it okay for this man to have this child by himself, and he gets to hire help, and he gets to, his law firm is going to give him 5 years to get over this. And me, I'm a fine mom, and they take my kid away. So
that
fuck
mirroring
you.
There,
here's the train.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I also,
go ahead.
I just realized that, thinking about what you said about Sam, maybe I like this reading now, because maybe the whole thing was also, she was like, she took him because Sam was standing right there. And, it's one thing if Arthur sees this and everything, but at the same time, Sam has been he's been not believing it, right? And even after all of that, and maybe that's like finally,
and she shows him, she allows him to see all the children after that,
to see all the children, and finally be like, it's not enough for this outsider to come in and see me and see this event, and like, you have to help do this. You're part of this too, and you gotta reckon with this as well. And I don't think he actually did. But I can bet you after that moment,
Went home
Yeah.
and
he
said
does.
sorry to his wife. They got chloroformed
Jesus.
together.
I mean, you would think so, but I also wonder if it's part of, like, if he is the father, which I'm now loving this theory.
I know,
you
me too.
But it's like she's watching the way he's treating his wife, who was just trying to grieve for her child.
Well, and his wife is the only one in town who can speak to the dead kids. So
Mm-hmm. So maybe there's, I don't know. I wonder if she's trying to punish him because she's like, you're still not fucking taking us seriously. You're still trying to shut us down, literally like knock my wife out because I don't want her upset in my presence. And I think it's read as a lot more compassionate. Like, I don't think he's actually trying to
it is more compassionate. Yeah,
banish
he
her to the
definitely
attic.
loves her. Like there is like he's distressed about it for her, not just
Yeah.
like you're embarrassing. Like
Yeah.
But I
But
think
it's
there is a read
also-
to it, like the fact that no, like women, you're not allowed to be really emotionally upset,
Yeah.
whether that's anger and then
Mhm.
you're demonized and locked in an attic, or super upset or emotional and then you're chloroformed.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
Uh-huh.
kind of it's just that general idea of like, oh no, we can't handle this. Like you're
Yeah.
not allowed to be this open and out there with your feelings. Like we don't
Mhm.
like that. That makes us uncomfortable. So just go to sleep.
Yeah.
exactly. And I noticed too, at least what we see in the movie, it was mostly girls who died. It was mostly
Yeah.
girls.
I think the only one we know of that is a boy, other than Daniel Radcliffe's son, I'm sorry, Arthur's son,
Arthur's son.
is Nicholas, which
Yeah,
is Sam's
Sam's.
son. So yeah, it's the two men who are directly involved in this that lose their son. Although I think we might be able to imply that there were
Yeah, I think when
other
you see the group of
boys.
kids, there are more boys. But it just
Yeah.
in the movie, I thought it was an interesting choice that they used girls for most of the deaths. Like
And 5.
Mm-hmm.
5 girls, because it's the 3 at the beginning, it's the one lie girl, and it's the fire
Uh-huh.
girl.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that, I think, is just like our shorthand of like girls are more vulnerable than boys are, and it's
The
And it's
audience is going to be more
the-
sad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's harder for us to see them die. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, okay. Speaking of Sam, I do want to talk about this because we talk about movies as metaphors for grief a lot. I think there's an argument here that that's what this is because it is just, it's so pervasive. And so much of this revolves around a woman being unable or unwilling to let go of her pain and spreading it to everyone else. But Sam says a couple of things that we've kind of hinted at. But he says either Nicholas, his son, is in a better place and we will be reunited someday, or he is lost. Which would you have chosen to believe? Which makes me wonder, like, how long has he known this is actually true? And is it when it's so in his face, or it's a man telling him this is real that he can't deny it anymore? But then he also says it's not natural to lose someone so young. But if we open the door to superstition, where does that lead? It's just chasing shadows, Arthur. When we die, we go up there. We don't stay down here. Which, as much as I love Sam, it is just the most man statement ever of
It
like,
is.
don't worry your pretty little head about this. Don't because I think a lot of the reason women connect to spirituality, and that is much more marketed to women. Like, it was funny. I was pulling one of my tarot cards and the explanation today was like, if you are a woman who bleeds. And I was like, I bet that's probably 99% of who's using this deck, because it's just, and I mean, not to dismiss, hey, men, if you're out there and you do tarot, let us know, because that's awesome. But I think the reason a lot of women connect to spirituality like that is because it offers us a less, like, it's more nuanced. It's not just a
yeah.
black and white answer that is the patriarchal answer to so
Most
many
major
situations.
religions were not exactly like even hardly welcome. So
Exactly. Yeah. Well, or we're welcome, but only if we do what
only
the
in a
men
certain
say.
way. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I just watched Diabolic, which is this FLDS possession film, and so I've just been thinking about the FLDS church a lot recently, and it's
Fun. They're one to think about. That's for sure.
They sure are with their little poofy French braids, But Shelby, what do you think this movie is saying about grief?
That is a good question. It feels like it should be more black and white, where it's like, grief is hard, but like
Yeah.
it's the different ways to deal with grief. Daniel Radcliffe, deals with it in the way of major depression, which is very common. Sam Daly tries to kind of ignore it, which is another way to deal with it. Our girl, the woman in black, just goes scorched earth, which is could be another way. I mean, she almost feels like she could be the image of an addiction, sort of like she can't stop, and that's a definitely a common way to deal with grief. And we got Mrs. Daly, who I think is weirdly dealing with it the best way, to get 2 cute little dogs. And sometimes you do some automatic writing, but then you get chloroformed and you take a little nap.
Yeah. Maybe she does a little watercolor,
little watercolor. Yeah. Wear fabulous nightgowns. Her nightgowns were amazing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Gorgeous.
It's just gorgeous.
Beautiful gowns. Beautiful gowns.
Beautiful gowns. Of course, there's the townspeople who, like Sam, are like, we're just going to choose not to even. I mean, they believe it, unlike Sam does, but Sam does. I feel like he does believe it.
Yeah.
But he, like, him saying he chooses not to is him kind of saying he does. And the townspeople, I feel like we're seeing, I don't even want to say stages of grief, because I don't feel like anyone's in a stage as in they're about to move to the next one. It's like everyone we meet is dealing with grief in this movie. Like every single person, aside from maybe the nanny, but no, at the end she is too. So never mind. Nanny's not immune either. That poor woman. I felt the worst for her out of the whole movie, because she literally came into this like, what the fuck?
She's just working. That's her job.
She just shows up, and Daniel Radcliffe is like, go buy our fucking tickets right now. And she's like, and now she's seeing, like, because we don't see what they're seeing. They're seeing a little boy and her father. Like, I don't know. In the early days of the internet, a lot of us got on like rotten.com and stuff. So if anyone's ever seen what a train does to someone, what they were seeing was not great. But I do love, and this, I didn't get to put this anywhere else, but I just love the filmmaking choice of, they're still at the train station and there's just, they can't see anyone when Daniel and the little boy wake up. I just really enjoyed that touch. But anyway, I think it's just different ways of dealing with grief, and perhaps every bad way to deal with grief, because no one's moving to the next stage of grief to move on. Not one person in this movie is moving past the past, essentially.
Yeah, and I think, like, I love this repetition of I will not forgive, and I'm doing EMDR therapy, which involves like I put my hands like this because she talks about them as like memories in bubbles, and then you explore the bubble, and then once you're done, once the emotion goes down to 1 or 0, you move on. And one of the things that I've had to learn is like, you kind of you don't really have control over these emotions. You kind of just have to let them come and let them go. And the good thing about that is when you stop trying to push it all down, or you stop trying to pretend that this doesn't hurt, they do flow out. It might take longer than you want, but if you just let it kind of roll out of your body, then it does eventually feel better. And the only people, like, nobody in this movie is doing that. They're all trying to, I think Arthur is trying, but he just can't, like, he's just so sad. And because maybe it's just not.
And he's very
avoidant.
He doesn't deal with the child, it's.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the kid looks so much like his wife. Like, this kid does not look like him at all, But I do think that this is the pain of this story is that she can't let go of this hurt. And it's not because she's doing anything wrong. It's because it was such a hurt. It was so devastating, and it was so wrong and so egregious that she can't let go of it, and she's not going to let anybody else let go. And as much as part of me is like, kind of, Shelby, every time you talk about her being like the superhero villain, I'm like, I think she might be my hero, because these kids are not real. Let's all be clear. We're not talking about actually killing, because I forgot to say, yes, we know murder is wrong when we went to this category.
We did forget to say that this episode.
We did forget to say
of all episodes.
I know.
Murder of children is especially
the murder of children is wrong.
It is especially wrong. Yeah, especially if you woman and black them, because it's extra devastating. But Rachel, what do you think about this? Does this feel like a metaphor for grief? And what do you think the story is saying about grief?
Oh, I totally think this whole thing is a big metaphor for grief. And I agree with everything you said, and just how grief can be a destructive force
Yeah.
if not addressed, right? Like there's stages to grief, right?
Mhm.
And there's a reason for that because there's another step. And if you don't go through all of them, you're never going to actually fully heal from this. But I like what it's showing is it's not just her. Like grief can take many shapes and forms and it can present in different ways. And how it's not just her grief, like she's clearly stuck on the anger.
I was gonna say she's
Yes.
anger.
Very
yeah.
much so.
We can agree. Yeah.
But also like the town, like that the whole community trauma, like and how traumas can affect whole communities as well.
Mhm.
But how also if they're not addressed, how if they're just ignored, like that also can be a destructive force because the community itself can never fully move on. And it does take an outsider, Arthur, to come in and really sort of shake that up. And
Mhm.
how difficult it is for all these townsfolk to like they don't want to. Like they stop him and are like, you're not gonna go up there, you gotta go.
Mhm.
And so I think it's really fascinating. And then also like Sam's wife, like clearly she's still grieving, but I think she's in a different part of it, and she's actually in some ways like the most healed. Like I think
Mhm.
because there's something to say about the fact that she knows, but the fact that she's also communicating with her son.
Yeah.
She has her dogs. Rambo, come here. I know he's like his
Aw.
thoughts.
That's okay. Got
Um,
something to say.
like
I like those
that
dogs, the twin dogs.
yeah, like she
Yeah.
has her dog. Like she's actually trying to cope, and
Mhm.
she's not ignoring that this event happened. She's
Yeah.
fully aware. She fully acknowledges it and is like, I'm doing my best. And maybe I'm not always 100%, but I'm trying to deal with it in some way. And I get it. Also, like the paintings and everything, it's like, okay, how long has it been? This is a little creepy. But you know
Yeah.
what? Grief
if
like
you-
that changes you.
And if you keep getting chloroformed every time you're trying to like work it out of your body,
Exactly.
you know, then I
Yeah.
could see kind of going a little nuts. There's something that I'm hitting on of like maybe it's this story Rattlesnakes, Stephen King. I don't think, which is a sequel to Cujo, which Rachel, you're wearing your Cujo shirt, which I love. But there's this idea that like, yes, I know that this thing has happened. I know that he's gone, but I'm allowing myself to live in this world because she doesn't have a job. It's fine. She can
Yeah.
keep treating her and she can keep doing her watercolors and she can keep telling herself that he's talking through me because it makes her feel good. And maybe that is how she's processing. And I think she and the mother of the innkeeper or the wife of the innkeeper who is
Yeah.
like, hey, you can use the attic, even though that was the room. And it's the husband who doesn't want his daughter's playroom where they died to be rented out to him. So it's like this idea maybe that she and Sam's wife and Arthur, they are the ones who are trying to move forward.
Yeah.
And that is what the town can't allow because the town is very stuck in the mud. You know, it's like, no, this happened and all we just have to close our eyes and pretend and just hope that it doesn't affect us next time. And they are like, and Sam, you know, Sam has the car. He's like moving forward. He's progressive. It's like they can't handle that. That is
By
what
the way,
ultimately
that car is a Rolls Royce Ghost. That's what it's called.
Ooh,
Isn't that cute?
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
The way she presents too, like she's literally the woman in black. Like she's
Mhm.
wearing these
She's mourning.
like mourning clothes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important too. That how
Mhm.
she's choosing, quote unquote, I don't know, but like presenting, it's like this to the town and everybody. It's like they see her, and it's like this fear, this embodiment of grief.
Yeah.
And how like terrifying that is. Like we don't want to look at it. We don't want to see it. And it's like, that's not, sometimes you gotta grieve.
You have to just look. Yeah.
You just have to look at it
Mhm.
and get through it. And so I think it's, just the literal embodiment of how she appears is
Mhm.
really fascinating. That like, yes, this is a metaphor for grief, I think.
Well, and I also think, because another word that is coming to mind is depression. Like the only death in this movie that is not a suicide is Nathaniel's death, which is the instigation of all of this. And I mean, I think we could argue Arthur's is not, although maybe he's passively suicidal, you know. And so, yeah, I
But
do.
what parent wouldn't try? Like,
Exactly.
like
Yeah, and I think in that moment, I don't think it's a trying to, because he is trying to like put this right. But I think just his entire demeanor, like it just feels like he wants to get out of there, you know. But yeah, those are the only two that is not a death by suicide. So it's just this kind of manifestation of the depression that nobody can really find a way to get through because they won't allow
Yeah.
themselves to,
Mhm.
you know? I don't think this is good for her horror. As much as I love an unapologetic female villain, especially one who is so terrifying that she can kill you with like a look, I love that, but this is not good for her. I don't think it's good for anyone. Even when like I agree with you. I think that Arthur's ending is kind of coded happy and this is what he wanted, but it's still like they die. The whole family is dead now, you know. Rachel, what do you think? Good for her?
No. No. This is not good for her.
Mm-mm.
This is not bad. I but I also like that it's not good for her in some
Yeah.
ways because it's just in some ways it's reassuring because it can feel really kind of condescending, maybe is not the right word, but a little condescending when it's like, just get over it.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. And so I think that there's definitely a place for this kind of movie.
Yeah.
I kept thinking a lot about Bring Her Back while watching
yes.
this because they feel very kind
Whew.
of in conversation with each other, you know,
Yeah, I
at different
agree.
times. But just that kind of idea that like sometimes it's nice to see a character that is just not willing to move on. Because I think we've all been there. Like we've all been in moments where it's like you're pushing back a little on like
Yeah.
what you are. You know you should be working towards something, whether it's grief or not. But sometimes you're just like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And I know that's not healthy, but I'm just going to stay here for a
Yeah.
minute because that's what I
Yeah.
need. And so I feel like that's kind of an important thing to have and to say. And for, you know, not all movies need happy endings. And even though this is a happy ending, it's not it's bleak. It's not, maybe it's a happy ending for the character, but it's also a pretty like unhappy ending overall for us, especially. Like, oh man, they fucking died. Like, okay. Like, I don't feel good at the end of this movie. And I like that sometimes because it feels more realistic in some ways. Because as we all know, like, that's not how life works. Like, there's not always a happy ending.
Yeah.
And so I kind of appreciate that about this. But no, the woman in black, I can't see her. This town's fucked. They gotta move.
Well, that's
She's
the
still
thing.
there.
And I love the way this movie ends because I was expecting a real big jump scare, you know, but it's just her watching somebody get to move on and get to like actually reunite with their child. So yeah, it feels like a cautionary tale. It's like if you cannot let go of your pain, you know.
And also I like, well, I can't, was it you said the word stain.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like sometimes there are some things that have happened that are just so bad that there's nothing you can do or say at any point in time that is ever going to make it better.
Yeah, and that is
And-
real. Sometimes we don't
Yes.
get over it, or we don't get over it as much. Like I'm sure eventually, generations down the road, this town is probably going to clear, and the woman in black is probably going to let go and
there
walk
is
into
a
the light.
sequel,
Maybe
so
that's true,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
have not seen. But I
Me
also
neither.
like it. A lot of times, it's where you choose to end the story, and
Yeah.
I think we choose to end the story. I love it. She just kind of subtly looks at us, and I feel a real sadness there too. Like I know she's supposed to be scary, but it feels sad. Like she is watching somebody who could move on, and she hasn't figured it out yet. So, Shelby, what do you think? Good for her.
No, good, not good for anyone. Because even though I enjoy the ending, the happy ending, it wasn't like heartwarming happy. It was
No.
kind of like, I mean, this is
I mean, they're
the
all
end,
dead.
and it wasn't as bad as the kid just going and joining her horde or whatever. But like,
Yeah.
it didn't feel like, I wasn't like, oh, here we are together, you know, like it didn't feel like that. It felt very sad, like, well, their lives were also taken from them. And
Yeah.
I don't know, there was even a sadness I feel like that came from the mother, the woman in white. Like, I don't know, it even felt like maybe I'm reading her acting wrong, but it felt like there was kind of a like, you guys weren't supposed to be here yet, but also here we
Yeah,
go.
her son's never gonna grow
Her
up.
son's
Like
never
that's
I thought that too. I was like,
not
her
a
son's
great
never gonna
ending.
grow up. Like,
Well, and
what
considering what we
happens
just
here?
talked about with Interview with the Vampire, like that's
Yes.
not necessarily good.
It's
It
not
might feel good in
necessarily
this
good.
moment.
She gave not necessarily intentionally, but she gave her life to give life to her child.
Yes.
And now he's here and it's like, wait, I died. What? Like,
She's
that's
like,
not
Arthur, you
that's
had
not
keep
what
him
it-
alive
one
for, like,
job.
Yeah.
more than 4 years? Like, really?
Right.
What the fuck?
Oh my
Mhm.
God. Or yourself. Here you are too. My God.
Yeah.
What's interesting, though, is that Joseph does get to go. Joseph doesn't have to stay with the horde of kids. And I wonder if it is because he did have a parent that came after him that tried to rescue him,
Yeah.
that's what feels different, which feels really sad
It does.
for all the other children. Although, if I get to haunt people, like, I don't know, part of me is now like, maybe I should just be a woman in black when I die. Scare all the men. I'm going to do it for patriarchy, though. Well, not for patriarchy, but I'm going to take down patriarchy. Like I said at the beginning, when I die, if you see the djinn in black, that means a bad man is going to die. So,
I love
everybody just look out, I guess.
Just look out.
Yeah, you'll be dying for me.
Stay tuned.
Like
Watch this
in our-
space.
Watch this space for my Medusa era,
Who was
so
also
y'all
a wronged woman, by the way.
She was a wronged woman, absolutely. And we got to figure out, I mean, maybe she'll be in the Iliad or the Odyssey.
Really?
Is that where she comes from?
I don't remember now.
I don't
can't
know.
remember
Great question.
either.
Mr. Nolan?
I know, yeah. Well, I mean, we got to talk
Chime
about
in the comments if you're listening.
dude movie.
Big listener of the show, friend of the show.
Oh, yes. Hey, Mr. Nolan, let us know. Yes. Also, does the top actually fall over? You can let us know, too.
Oh, also, what the fuck is Tenet?
What happened with Tenet? I would like to know if he can explain Tenet,
I would love to.
and does it make sense? Yes. And, will the Odyssey pass the Bechdel test? Who's to say? Maybe we'll find out. Watch this space for my afterlife revenge and for our thoughts on Christopher Nolan. Anyways, let's go to our next category, Die For Me.
Look at her. I would die for her. I would kill for her. Either way, what bliss.
I feel like I've been extra rambly in this episode, and I think part of it is because this movie is just kind of a vibe. It's a lot of feelings, and I love that. I love movies that are so simple. Like, the word that always comes to mind is empty. And I do not mean that as an insult, because I can feel it. I feel it with how I feel about this. And it is interesting that the three of us have had kind of different reads on this.
Yeah.
Because there is not enough information for us to lock in really to the actuality of the story or the details, which I love, because I think this is like, is a wronged woman a villain, or what happens to make a wronged woman a villain? What can she do? Are kids the unforgivable sin? If she were killing adults, would we feel the same way? And I think that's a movie. This question isn't really, that's a question this movie isn't explicitly asking us, but I think it's there. And that's part of why we do what we do, because we like to dig into this shit and who are the women in black and who are the women in white. I also think this movie is just a really fucking good time. Like, it is, it's asking all of these things. It's really, really bleak, but it's also super accessible, and it's really scary. Like, part of me is like, well, I think my kids might be able to handle this because it's not super gory, but it's really scary. And they talk about jump scares all the time because that's what the kids know about now. And it doesn't overuse its jump scares. I think it does them very well.
Yeah.
And there's this moment where we're with Daniel Radcliffe while he's going through the letters, and then he sits back to like sleep because he's fucking spending the night in this haunted house. And then suddenly he moves into the foreground, and then we see the door open in the back, and it's just, you can barely see it, but it's incredible. And then her shadow is like behind. It's so good. So I think this movie it's deeper than it looks, and it's also, I think, a lot scarier than it would appear to be. So I'm absolutely dying for this. I'll die for Daniel Radcliffe any day. Like, I just love him. So glad that he has kind of had this second life, more so than really any of the other three than Hermione and Ron, although they're doing great too. But it's like he has really found his niche and taken, I think, really smart roles and is starting to make a name for himself. Like, I do think he will always be Harry Potter, but he's other things. Like,
I agree.
He's Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, he's Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah, I agree.
Well, Shelby, what about you? Are you going to die for the woman in black?
I will. I will drink lie for her.
Yeah, maybe we should have to say how we're going to die for the woman.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone pick one. I picked like the worst one too. I feel like that or fire is the worst one.
There's no
I think
good way.
I wouldn't be me if I didn't say I would light myself on fire, but I would have to do it pyrokinetically. So that's how I'm going to die for her.
But yeah, I think this is a great movie. Like you said, it's very scary. It's very atmospheric. It is like the perfect, just like, I don't know. It'd be great. Like, I don't know. It's just like when you want to live in a ghost story. This is my perfect ghost
Yeah.
story. I love this era because it's just so eerie. I love very British people, and they're very British in this. What is the name of the town again? Criffin Gifford.
Criffin Gifford.
Criffin Gifford.
Gryffindor.
Like
Oh, yeah.
Gryffindor. Yeah, it's very British.
Criffin
It's very like
Gifford.
I don't know. It's just it's just a good time. Again, it's a vibe. It really it's such a good turn off all the lights movie. Like you said, all the shadows and
Mhm.
just it's very creepy. It will the jump scares are perfect and they're not like overly done. Her face is so scary, but like not I don't know. Like I had issues with like the most recent Conjuring and the way they did like the scary faces. I just thought they were like just trying too hard to be scary faces, and this was just like it they let this woman look like a woman but very pale, and her presence itself was what was terrifying, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I really appreciate that, and I just love this movie so much. The acting was great. Yeah, die for her.
Rachel?
You know, I think I actually will die for this movie. I wasn't sure before watching it, but I think what I appreciate about it, especially looking at it now versus even when I saw it, is kind of, I don't know, how it's playing with these tropes, because clearly this is not the first movie of
Yeah.
this ilk.
Mhm.
And it was written and I think knowing now that it was written in the 80s, actually, it's like, oh, okay. That actually puts things in an interesting perspective for me to think about it through a little bit more of a modern lens being written. And it makes a lot of sense how it's exploring, because it doesn't resolve in a lot of the ways that I feel like some of these movies traditionally would. The fact, like, how vengeful she is and how there isn't really resolution here. We get no resolution for anybody. Even though Arthur and his kid are dead, that's not really resolved. And like Sam and the town and the woman in the black are still doing their thing. And what I like about that though is just how it's playing with those ideas, and like that there is no happy ending. And it's interesting because this movie, I know it was a big hit at the time, but I was also kind of surprised. Not available. It's out of print, like on Blu-ray and DVD,
Oh.
and it's not really accessible that way. Not that they're not out there or like they're expensive, but it's like, oh, you can't just like go buy a new copy of this movie, which is strange to me. And it's not streaming very many places, so it's kind of almost forgotten.
Hey,
And I
Second
don't,
Sight,
yeah,
cue you. Give us a release of this.
I don't think it deserves that treatment. I think that it's worth people revisiting, because I do think it's saying a little bit more and allowing those conversations in a really interesting way. It's not trying to be super literal, where I feel like a lot of other movies would have fallen into that trap. While it feels like it, yes, this is a movie about grief and trauma and all of that, but it's not preaching that at you. It's not telling you how to feel, which I feel like sometimes, we've seen a lot of those movies recently. It's like, they're great, they're great, they're great. And then it gets to the end and it's like, okay, we get it. Like, you don't have to explain it. This movie's not over explaining things. And that's what I really like about it, is that it allows you to kind of sit in this really beautiful place, like all the vibes are there for sure, but then kind of take from it what you want and really kind of have those conversations. So I like that. And for that, I will say I will die for this movie.
Hey. And on that note, let's wrap up with what's coming next.
Unlock the next configuration. And then the last. No. I've done enough. Enough is a myth.
If you want to follow the show, you can do that on Twitter at The Lady K Pod and on Instagram and Blue Sky at The Lady Killers Pod. You can find me at Jim Ferratu. I've mentioned Murder My Fiction a couple of times. We're talking about Olympic crime right now, and it's been super fun.
Interesting.
I know. I got to talk about Tanya Harding. So, maybe a stealth patron saint of this pod, because I think we could definitely have some conversations about her. But also, next up is Oscar Pistorius, whose name I got to figure out how to say right.
Yeah.
And I feel like I conned Joe into letting me talk about Cocaine Bear again because I will never shut up about that movie. I love it so much. And then on the Losers Club, we are about to start ranking all of the books, and that was a huge undertaking, and I'm really excited for everyone to hear that. And then Rachel and I just finished season 4 of Banshee. I also mentioned that earlier because we got some blue eyes in that show also. And we were both really pleasantly surprised by how it turned out. I think we both really enjoyed it. So check those episodes out. You can find me at Jen Ferratu. I also have a piece, my old Fatal Femmes column I wrote about the Woman in Black. I think it was about a year ago. So you can find my non-rambly thoughts there. Rachel, what about you? Where can listeners find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at the Vinyl Girl, and on Halloweenies, this month we're covering Hellraiser 2 and The Omen 2. So,
Ooh.
All things demonic and possessed and satanic, I guess.
Love both.
A lot of fun things. And we also did a commentary because there's a Friday the 13th on Jason Takes Manhattan. So there's something for everybody over there.
So much fun. Shelby, what about you? Where can listeners find you?
You can find me at Shelby B. Novak on mostly Instagram, and you can find me on the Bloody Disgusting podcast, where every week we talk about new stuff. And we've started talking about video games, actually. This coming episode is going to be video games. So we have a Gamefly sponsorship. Yay.
Cool.
I know. And on Scare You to Sleep, I actually just covered a very classic ghost story. If you liked The Woman in Black, I covered The Moonlit Road by Ambrose Bierce. And it's one of his lesser known ones. Ambrose Bierce, of course, is very popular in ghost stories, but it's one of his lesser known ones. And it's got a murdered lady who we hear her story through a medium, and it's very, very good. It's got some false identities. We hear the same story from 3 different perspectives, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's now one of my favorite Ambrose Bierce stories, so that's on Scare You to Sleep. And I think that's all of it. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that out because I need, that's the other thing I loved about this movie is if you want to be scared, this is a good one to put on, because it will actually scare you. And that's it for our episode on The Woman in Black. Just be warned that the men will die because you watched this episode. But I think it was worth it, right?
Oh yeah. Always.
Thank you so much to my esteemed panel and listeners. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the men who gave their lives so that listeners and viewers could watch this. If you liked this episode, please give us a quick rate and review on Apple Podcasts. We would also love to hear from you on Spotify. We've been having so much fun with these comments. It's just really fun to hear from you. We are also available on YouTube too, so you can smash that subscribe button and comment there. And we are going to be back next week with one more Gothic horror, and it is a new one for me. Also, one of the older movies that we have covered. We are going to be watching Rebecca. But until then, remember, ladies and ladies, support women's rights, support women's wrongs, and we will never forgive. Never forgive!